What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. This is Ryan Thomas, the host of the Thomas Take. This is the Thomas Take, and we are one day removed from the epic fight that was Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. Floyd Money Mayweather versus the notorious one Conor McGregor, and the fact that my statement was just made, that it was an epic fight, exceeds all initial expectations. When the chatter of this fight began a year and a half ago, one of my first articles that I wrote in response to the news of the fight was the ultimate fighting circus, the ultimate fighting sideshow, Mayweather-McGregor. And yes, it was the ultimate spectacle. It was the ultimate event. But watching those 10 rounds, now that I've watched them not once but twice, realizing that this fight was a fight. It was a battle between two fighters that are the two biggest names in combat sports. Obviously the biggest draw in the history of boxing, the biggest draw in the history of MMA. And one guy is at the crossroads, the tail end of his career. The other still has a lot of career left. So I want to talk about the aftermath of the fight, my thoughts on the fight specifically. Obviously today, it'd be well known that I posted quite a lot in response to the fight. My biggest takeaway, I want to give Floyd the credit that he deserves. 50-0, coming away with the 10th round TKO victory. The best record, win-loss record in the history of boxing. 50 wins, 0 losses, and 27 knockouts out of those 50 wins. So credit to Floyd for a crazy long, 21-year-long career. A guy that really defied the odds, so to speak. Guy that went up against the who's who, went up against every big-name fighter of his generation. Miguel Cotto, Shane Mosley, Manny Pacquiao, although the Pacquiao fight I thought happened a little bit too late. Oscar De La Hoya. Regardless of whatever we can say about Floyd as a person, he did what he needed to do throughout his boxing career. He did fight basically all comers during his boxing career, and I always kind of say the businessman that Floyd is kind of got in the way of the caliber of fighter I think that Floyd is. And there were times where he might have chosen to fight someone that might not be in their prime anymore, or might not be in their prime yet. And best case example of that was Shane Mosley, and most recently a couple years ago when he fought Canelo Alvarez. So there were fights there where, I thought, man, if he would have maybe, the timing, he was very smart businessman, and some of that, I don't like that in terms of boxing, where a fighter basically controls everything, the gloves, the ring, the venue, the weight. He controlled pretty much everything when he became his own boss. And I personally, as a mixed martial arts fan, like to see the fights, the best fight the best when they are the best, and that wasn't always the case with Floyd. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. 50-0, best record in the history of the sport, obviously one of the best, but my notion is that if we are going to refer to this guy as TBE, the best to ever do it, last night he fought, as a 40-year-old man, he fought a 29-year-old mixed martial arts two-weight champion in a boxing ring, and it took him 10 rounds to do so. It took him 10 rounds to finish the fight. Floyd himself stated that he would need 6 to 7 rounds. That was the game plan that his uncle Roger and his father Floyd Mayweather Sr. Developed for Conor McGregor, that they would finish the fight within 6 to 7 rounds. That did not happen. So that in itself is a huge moral victory for Conor McGregor, and yes, moral victories do exist. Did anyone honestly believe? I really thought about this fight time and time again. I thought it over, mulled it over and over again, and I always thought that this fight could be more deceiving than what people realize. We could really be witnessing something special here, or we could witness a drubbing. And as the weeks went on, as the weeks wore on, the media build-up, the hype for this fight, the training session between Floyd and between Conor and Paulie Malignaggi, the training that Conor was putting himself through, the body frame that changed in Conor McGregor from an MMA fighter to a boxer. His whole frame of his torso completely changed. So I started to realize this guy is taking this very seriously. He's not going in there for just a payday. He's going in there to beat Floyd Mayweather, and he believes that he can. And he went 10 rounds with the supposed best ever, which I don't think Floyd Mayweather is, regardless of record or not. I think he's the best fighter of his generation. Obviously one of the best tacticians in the ring, one of the best defensive fighters in boxing, one of the best counterpunchers, and his career was remarkable. I'm not taking anything away from him in terms of his career, but to say he's the best ever, to put him over, rank him ahead of Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Sugar Ray Leonard, guys like that paved the way for him, Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson. I think that's a little bit ridiculous to say that Floyd is better than those guys when, in my eyes, the best ever, when I think the best ever, I think of the guy that I believe could beat virtually anyone. And I don't think Floyd could obviously stand toe-to-toe with George Foreman. I know that's kind of a silly notion, but in my mind, when I think the best ever, I do think to myself, well, head-to-head, who would he fight in the past or in the present that he, could he beat those guys? And I don't think last night's Floyd Mayweather could beat present-day Canelo Alvarez. I don't think last night's Floyd Mayweather could beat present-day Gennady Golovkin. Definitely 100%. Floyd is getting out at the right time, the 50th victory, 50 wins in a row, the undefeated streak, truly remarkable. And, as a boxer, one of the most savvy boxers in the history of the sport. There's no doubt about that, and I won't take that away from him. I want to talk about the fight. Obviously, the first 3 rounds were most definitely Conor's. I had round 1, 2, 3, and 8 for Conor. And right around the 6th round, the 6th, 7th round, I did notice that Conor was starting to kind of take his foot off the gas a little bit. And that kind of allowed Floyd to kind of pick his shots in the 7th. And then the 8th, I thought Conor came back out swinging, looked pretty good, landed some nice punches. Then the 9th round was really where things started to crumble. His feet were in quicksand, pretty much. His legs were gone. He looked completely exhausted, and Floyd remained composed. Floyd's been in the boxing ring, as I said, since he was 5 years old in the lead up to this fight. So realistically, as each round kind of came to a close and I started to watch Floyd Mayweather go back to his corner and see he was barely breaking a sweat, he wasn't heavy breathing, I thought, wow, this is going to be over soon. I watched the fight with my dad and a few of my dad's relatives and a few of my relatives, I should say, and we enjoyed it. It was a hell of a fight. Nobody expected in the build-up, nobody meaning the old crusty jerks that are so stuck in the past about boxing, they did not believe that Conor McGregor had a snowball's chance in hell of, quote, landing a punch, in the words of Max Kellerman. And Conor was able to do so. And one dynamic of the fight that people keep asking me about, 2 dynamics of the fight that people keep asking me about, actually, is the referee stoppage, which I thought the referee, the name is falling out of my head, but he did a fantastic job in that fight, a fantastic job. With the clinches where Floyd was kind of turning his back and Conor would kind of turn and take his back, I thought that the ref could have definitely taken a point away, but I was very happy that he didn't. I was very happy that he just separated them and let them continue to fight, because that's what the fans wanted to see. They didn't want to see a sloppy, point deduction, whether it was justified or not. And I really admired the way when Floyd, for whatever reason, pushed Conor McGregor. I believe it was at the end of the 5th round. The ref pushed Floyd back into his corner and then went to Conor and said, I just told him that was completely unnecessary. A true professional. That referee did a fantastic job. And then last but not least, when Conor was pretty much gassed, had nothing left in the tank, and Floyd was virtually landing at will, for him to step in there and stop it, I thought it was a perfect time stoppage. I didn't think it was too early. I thought Conor needed to, really show something in that instance, because the ref steps in. The ref is waiting for the fighter to show something to the ref or to his opponent, and Conor was not. So that being said, I really thought that Conor did a good job, though. To say that he would go 10 rounds with the supposed best of all time, according to all the boxing analysts and all the ring analysts, the Ring magazine writers, and everybody that said that he didn't have a snowball's chance in hell. Guess what? I think now more than ever, this fight proved that boxing fans that are such diehard boxing fans from decades and decades ago, the fans that had the Ring magazines back in the day, the fans that got to see the 70s and 80s and 60s and even 50s play out, they have to realize, if they're still around and still on this great earth, that MMA has officially arrived. It's not going anywhere. It will never go anywhere. And that mixed martial arts is no longer opposite to boxing. It is in the same... Boxing isn't one and mixed martial arts isn't number two like it used to be. Now they are both in the same sentence. Boxing and MMA are one. And last night, that was a night where we could see boxing and mixed martial arts come head-to-head and kind of merge. Two fan bases, two large fan bases, passionate fan bases of boxing and MMA came together on one night, August 26, 2017, to witness Floyd Mayweather in his final fight take on Conor McGregor, the largest draw in the history of mixed martial arts. And it was a real fight. It wasn't a shitty fight. It was a great fight. It was entertaining. And I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. That was probably the first boxing match in quite some time that I actually enjoyed. And I'm happy to have watched it. And I never thought I'd say this. Like, I'm just so shocked. And seeing them in the ring together was so weird at first. So surreal is the word I'm looking for. And I'm really excited for what the future holds for Conor. I'm going to talk about that next on the next edition of the Thomas Take, coming right up after the commercial break. But would like to send my congratulations to Floyd Mayweather on his 50th win, 50-0. Right off into the sunset. You got nothing left to prove, as I expect that he is. I think this was the perfect final fight for Floyd Mayweather, the perfect opponent. It went down the perfect way. And, it went down the perfect way for him. But in my eyes, knowing that he's referred to as the best ever, not being nitpicky, but if he's the best ever, regardless of his age, you would think that he would have been able to finish him a little sooner, like he had game planned for, and he was unable to. So that does notch some points off his GOAT status, off his TBE status for me. And I think boxing now is at a great point. Now that Floyd Mayweather is gone, I think this fight will do very well pay-per-view-wise, will do well merchandise-wise, all that stuff. But Floyd Mayweather went out with a bang. But I think boxing is ready to move on from Floyd Mayweather. They were ready to move on. This fight was a spur-of-the-moment thing back in June that was signed and sealed. And basically, in the lead-up the last 2 years or last year and a half, it was a spur-of-the-moment, fan-driven fight. And now we're actually going to get back to boxing where it is competitive, much like last night, but there's actual boxers versus boxers. It's not a spectacle. It'll be a true fight where it'll be Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez September 16th. And I'm going to bring you all the coverage that you guys want for that fight. I got a lot of boxing listeners that listen to this show. Jose Calderon Boxing Club people and a bunch of people on Facebook and YouTube, and I really appreciate it. So I definitely enjoyed the fight. I thought Conor held his own. He's got no reason to hold his head down. He's got every reason to hold his head up high, and I can't wait for what's next. I'm going to talk about what could be next for Conor McGregor. We'll be right back. This is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast.